born, my mother and father were in, my father was in the military, I think my mother was in the Women's Land Army. When one of them used to come on leave, they used to pick me up and take me with them, and then the other one will come and pick me up and take them. But most of my younger days I used to spend up in Scotland, where my dad was from. The war had finished, and I suppose with the war had finished it brought the end to the marriage. I went to live with my mother's parents, and my dad went on his merry own to his. I started going to kindergarten with when I was with my grandmother. Then I was shifted up to the school. And one day a woman come and knocked on the door and asked my grandmother if I was packed, ready to go. My grandmother knew nothing about it. And I had to go to the railway station and meet a train, and I was on board the train, and I was with a group of kids coming out of Australia. Apparently my mother had signed some papers along the line there without telling her mother. I ended up in Fairbridge in Western Australia. Spent about 5 years there. They exploited you. In other words, you were old enough to work, go out and work. We never got any paid for it. We weren't allowed to visit the girls' cottages. The girls weren't allowed to visit the boys' cottage. So if you had a brother or sister, the only time you might see them is at school, on the playground. Well, when I went back to England in the 80s, I went over to England and met my aunties and my uncles and some of my cousins. And my aunties and my uncles welcomed me with open arms, and they hadn't forgotten me. That's when I knew that I still had a family. When Margaret died in '75, which was my sister, I thought I was the only one left. When I found out about that I had another sister still alive, and I went out and to find her, that is when I started to develop the family history tree. The inquiry started about the child migrants, and we found out that we could go to and get all this freedom of information. So I turned around and I said, oh, all right, I'd like to see a shipping list. I'll get all the ship that I come out on. I sent away for it. And found all us that went to Fairbridge. Like I said, I went through the rest of the thingies and found out the girls that went to MICAH. And I think it was the list that started me looking at my life on Fairbridge and what I did. I had to make the move from England to Australia to where I was at now, and without the shipping list, I couldn't connect the dots.